Off. Hi, Mark and Jules. Welcome to the live of Marc Ruvolo's book launch, Waste Ground. I was so excited to have the background on TikTok of the book of the book cover.
It
Still have to do.
was beautiful.
So congratulations on release day. I know we had a 3 month pre-launch campaign and it went pretty well. And I feel like
Hmm.
we had 3 months of kind of just waiting for the calendar to tick over so we could get this out into the world. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thanks so much. Thanks for being here.
and thanks to all the viewers for joining us.
Yes, and all the viewers out there.
And thank you,
Uh,
Jules, for your blurb. It was awesome.
Thank you for letting me read that book early. It was my pleasure.
I appreciate it.
I'm always really kind of taken with the generosity among authors, like because obviously it's not a paid thing, and you're like, yes, let's do it, and we all do that for other authors as well, and I just think
Yeah.
it's the generosity of spirit is quite nice. So, and I think we should just take a minute to acknowledge that.
Yeah, we have to help each other. What else? What else is there out there? We
Well,
have
It's
to help
it's
each
also fun. I love getting to read the books early and then be like, ah, I've already read that.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of like
other. I
I'm a
agree.
little special, yeah.
Ah.
And I love reading works in progress too. I love being a beta reader, reading stuff before it even gets to that final state so you can see other writers' processes.
Yeah,
Because
Mhm.
seeing other writers' processes, I mean, we all know writing is a very difficult thing. It's not easy. So it's great to see how people get from one point to another. I
yeah,
Yeah.
love that part.
yeah. And I think it should be mentioned at this point that Mark read an early version of one of my novels too, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
How's that going? Is it getting closer?
it's finished.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I've decided to query, but this isn't about me. I just thought
Okay.
I'm just going to mention it just because I can. So what I'm going to do, I'll just do a quick introduction of Mark based on the about the author from the back of the book. Marc Ruvolo, he, him, is a queer writer and musician living in Portland, Oregon, who once considered himself a punk. He founded the seminal Bucket of Blood bookstore in Chicago and the DIY punk label Johann's Face Records. I hope I said that properly. Wasteground is
Yeah.
third horror novella and set in his hometown where few truly know what terrors lurk beneath the surface. Find him on all the major social media platforms and say hello.
Hello.
Yes. So from my perspective, working with you has been not a literal dream, but a metaphorical dream. It's just been so like Slashic's been around since June 2023, and so I've worked with quite a few authors since then.
Mhm.
And it's just nice to, you were really open to the edits and like that whole process, some development here
Of
and
course.
there, a couple of rewrites, and it's really nice to work with someone when you feel like you're on the same page.
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to learn. I just want to become a better writer, That's my goal. And so, like I said before, other writers are the best way to do that. If people seeing your writing and giving their opinions and readers, that's just the best way to go about it. I want to write the best possible books that I can.
Yeah.
So I'm open to all suggestions. I love it, in fact.
Well, I mean, that's good because there are a lot of people who don't take feedback the way that it's intended. So it's yeah.
Mhm.
And before I
Yeah, I worked in a lot of collaborative situations too. Since before I started writing seriously, I was a musician for 30 years.
yeah.
So I was in bands, and bands are a complete collaborative process, to the point where you're a family and you're fighting. You're fighting over things. So you have to be able to collaborate.
Yeah, I think it's super important at every stage, and even with things like getting the back copy, the back blurb, getting that down pat is also collaborative. The book cover is definitely a collaborative process.
For
Um,
sure.
so there's a little bit of history behind this book cover, isn't there, Mark?
Um, yeah, it's it's the book is set in Portland, of course, and it's where I've lived for the last 5 years. I moved here from Texas, and I grew up in Chicago. Uh, and it just is about my fascination with abandoned places and abandoned buildings and just areas where people just don't normally go, where the laws of man usually don't work. I'm completely fascinated my whole life with abandoned. I've done a lot of exploring of abandoned buildings and things like that, which is sometimes dangerous and sometimes crazy, but I really just love it. I think it's, a lot of times it's the last like undiscovered frontier. And also, I mean, I'm a fan of history as well, so there's usually a lot of history in those places.
Yeah,
Chicago was full of abandoned buildings. It was up until the 80s. Nobody wanted to live there in the 80s. It was full of wild packs of wild dogs, and
really?
we squatted there. We didn't pay rent for years and years and years. We lived in buildings where we just barricaded ourselves in, and just nobody wanted to live there. It
Wow.
wasn't until the mid 90s that it really became what it is now. It was just an abandoned industrial wasteland, basically.
Yeah, wow. I had no idea about that. My
Yeah, most
earliest,
of the Midwestern, it's called the Rust Belt. So it's the Midwestern
yeah,
American cities. They all were abandoned, kind of. Everybody moved to the suburbs. It was called white flight, and everybody just left.
yeah, wow.
And so places like Cincinnati, even up to 10 years ago, you go downtown. Cincinnati is in a valley, Cincinnati, Ohio, and it's just like wild down there. I'm like, this is like Silent Hill. This is like a video game. This is
That's
so
kind of
freaky.
cool.
It's all like, yeah, it's like shuttered buildings, shuttered like banks, marble, gorgeous stuff that was built in the 1800s, all shuttered. We went by one building where it looked like it was a seamstress shop that had just been shut sometimes maybe 40 years ago. It was just covered in dust. Everything was still in there. All of the mannequins, like I was saying, Silent Hill mannequins,
Yeah,
like sewing machines, everything was just in there. It was just shut behind bars. It's crazy. And there's a lot of that in the Midwest.
I had no idea about any of
No.
that. Like, I think
Oh yeah.
movies, like, because my experience of America when I was a kid was just film, right? And I think Beverly Hills
Sure.
Cop was sort of,
Yeah.
like those sort of movies and the way that they portray the US was, I was like, wow, America is a dream. And, and it's just not the case. But so I
I
No,
just,
had
it's very, very, very gritty.
I just
I had
wanted to
the
do a,
totally opposite idea from movies.
really?
I thought it was a terrifying place.
Because of
Like
all
it was
the,
always dark and wet and humid and dangerous because I guess I was watching too many horror movies.
yeah, I was,
It just depends on where you're at. It's such a huge country, it's so vast that it just changes from state to state, city to city. It's just different, even from street to street. We knew that certain streets were very dangerous in Chicago and certain streets weren't very dangerous in Chicago. Different parts of it were dangerous and others weren't. So it's just depends on where you're at.
Makes sense. Yeah.
so I wanted to do a really quick shout out to Christy Aldridge for the cover of Waste Ground. I use her for pretty much all the covers that Slashik releases because she's so easy to work with. We had a different version of the cover originally, that was sort of, it was like this, but it was just not this, if that makes sense. So we had some trouble finishing it off. And so I sent it off to Christy and I said, can you just work your magic on this, please? Yeah. And I think about a day or two later, maybe 2 days later, we had this. And I think it fits perfectly what the story is. So
Yeah.
shout out to Christy. Check her stuff out at Grim Poppy Design. And no, she doesn't use AI. So
Yay!
um,
Yay!
yeah. So now I know, like Jules, you're sort of sitting there like, am I gonna say anything or not? Well, yes, you are. So I'll just quickly introduce you, and then I'll hand over, and you guys can do your chat, and I'm just gonna sit
Cool.
here and listen. So, Jules, JV Gachs, I hope I said your last name properly,
Yeah.
is a Spanish ESL writer. Her work has been featured in anthologies like Chelsea Pumpkins' That's What I Call Horror. Her debut novel, Epiphany, was published by the late Off Limits Press in 2023 and will get a re-release by Sabello Books in June 2025. Exciting.
Yay!
Epiphany was published in Spanish by Dolman Editorial in 2024. As a self-translating author, her second novella, Spooky Lovers, was published in Spanish by Dimensions Occultus in 2025, while Mad Axe Media will release her erotic horror novella, Unholy, which is brilliant, the same year. Obsessed with sudden death, ghosts, and bisexual characters, she always writes with a cat or two in her lap. So welcome, Jules, and thank you again so much for doing the blurb for Mark. I'm going to hand over. I'm going to mute myself, and you two just go for your lives.
I have some notes and questions for Mark, because
Yeah.
when I was reading, I noticed that there's the cosmic horror elements are very, very present, but they are present for us readers. I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but the characters, they don't really get to figure out what's going on. So was this something you wanted to do? Was it important to you to have this cosmic horror element that the characters were oblivious to it?
Yeah, I think so. I think I really enjoy stories where the basis is more our everyday experiences. I think
Yeah.
the characters are obviously so important, you know. If you want people to really get into the story, they need to have characters that they can identify with and stuff that we can
Yeah.
all see. I really like when stories have that supernatural element, but it's kind of in the background, and especially with
Yeah.
cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is something that is unknowable, really. You know,
Hmm.
it's revealed as something that's far larger than us. You know,
Yes.
um, so yeah, I kept it that way, and and yeah, that's the way I really like cosmic horror. I want it to be revealed slowly over time, but also have characters where people can sit there and say, "Oh, well, I see them in me. I can understand their struggle." Because I guess the human struggle is the same as the cosmic struggle. The we're both struggling, but nobody really knows what the other people are going through, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I really like that in your book, because I always get annoyed by books where, like, if someone came and asked me how does the internet work, I really wouldn't be able to explain it. But then
Yeah,
sometimes characters in books feel like they have, like a textbook for their wall, or whatever is happening. So I found
sure.
that really, really interesting in your book. Um,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
talking,
I don't like explanations really. A
yeah.
lot of people, I get reviews a lot of times where people are like, "Oh, I wish I knew the story behind this. I wish I knew why this was happening and what the no. Once you start to explain too much, then it becomes not it's not scary anymore.
Yeah.
It's the unknown that makes it scary. It's, it's your
Yeah.
mind making up, filling in the blanks that makes it scary. That's what makes it
Yeah.
interesting. That's what makes it fun.
And also what you said, like it's the characters that make you I think part of why I love the horror genre is because it forces me to practice empathy a lot. Because in
Hmm.
order to feel scared, I have to put myself in the shoes of the characters. And
Exactly.
your characters are very deep and rich, and they feel authentic because they are flawed. They are not perfect. They feel like real people to
Sure.
me.
Well, thank you. I
How
appreciate that.
did you create the characters? Do you have a process for creating the characters, or do you just let them talk to you? Do you think they create
Yeah. I'm
themselves?
a I'm definitely a pantser. I really don't plan it before. I'll plan a little bit, but yes,
Yeah.
it's just as the story goes along, I start to understand the characters more and more, and I understand what their motivations are, and I think I just take from my real life of people that I've known and things that I've seen, and I just put that into people and things that I feel. I think there's a small part of me in all those characters too, of where I can, and that makes me sympathize with them as well. It's it's definitely not written out before. It just happens over the course of it, where I create the character, I create the basic archetype for what I want them to be, and then as time goes on, they explain to me really what they want to do and how they feel.
And did you have
And that's the best
the
part. That's so much fun of writing is when characters develop in front of your eyes.
yeah. Do you have a sense of what you want the end of the book to be, or do you just pants everything completely, like it's a surprise for you?
I pants everything. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by pantsers. I have to plot everything, and
Oh, really?
so it's always fascinating to me to talk to writers like you that can just sit and then discover the story as they go along. I think it's magic, really.
Yeah. I usually start out when I start a book, what I do is I just sit and then free write a paragraph mainly of all of my ideas for this book, where it could possibly go, what it could possibly do. And when I go back and look at that when I'm finished, it's usually completely different. All it does is it gives me the starting place, and then I just move on from there. And it's just, yeah, it surprises me all the time. I'm like, oh, that's where it has to go. It's almost like the characters tell you what they want to do and where they're going to go and what's going to happen. Um, yeah, I really enjoy it. Yeah, this one, yeah, I had no idea what the ending was going to be.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. No
I
idea.
find
Just started it out with a vague idea of where it was going and that it was cosmic horror and what the characters were. And yeah, it just went from there.
and was
I
it
just finished a whole
important?
novel that way. I just wrote a whole nother novel. My hopefully will be my debut novel. I just wrote it and yeah, it, I pantsed the whole thing.
Well, to me, you are a magician then.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
And
probably a lot hard. It's probably a lot harder to do it that way than your way, but
I, yeah, probably.
it's just
But
it,
I
I think it's just slower too. It takes more time because there are times where I'm stuck and I don't know where it's going and I kind of have to sleep on it. You
Yeah.
hear of people, oh, I wrote 5,000 words last night. Well, I don't write 5,000 words,
No. I've
you
never
know.
written 5,000 words in a day,
Yeah,
like
the most
ever.
I can get usually is average around only about 300 to 500 a day. And that's just me thinking about it. Once I get involved in it, I think my brain just subconsciously then starts to think of the story. And then it just, at different points, it comes out. So I'll be out at work or and then my brain will say, oh, here's that next part. And I have to take out my phone and quickly write it down, or I'm in the shower or whatever. Or it's right before I'm about to go to sleep, and scenes will just appear. Yeah, it is a very strange and kind of magical thing.
Is that part of the reason why you set the novella in Portland? Because you
Um,
say like you think about the story when you're out and when you're walking
for
maybe
sure,
in the street.
it's wherever I'm at, usually definitely becomes a part of the things that I'm writing. So I lived in Texas for 5 years, and then I wrote a bunch of short stories there and a bunch of things that were more Texas specific, or where I take the local environment. So exploring, since I moved to Portland, and I've been exploring all the deep dark corners of Portland, which is a lot like Chicago too, in that it's kind of like uh, an older city, not as old as European cities, obviously, but still an older city with a lot of, it hasn't been bulldozed and knocked over. There's lots of old buildings. There's lots of old, very interesting things here. It's a gorgeous place. And so that's why I set it here, because I was in the process of exploring, and there's lots of places where I mean, the waste ground that I talk about in the book
Yeah.
is reality.
Yeah, yeah,
Here,
yeah.
there's a lot of crazy waste ground here, a lot of places where people don't go. People who live here just do not go. But my dog and I, we like adventures, and we go
Yeah.
wherever we want to go. We like to see where other people don't go.
Yeah, that's so cool. Before we run out of time, I was also
Hmm.
very interested in the queer rep on the book.
What was it?
Um,
You broke
the
up.
queer
Oh,
representation
uh-huh, sure.
in the book.
Hmm.
Tell us about why you felt that that was important.
Again, I think it's because it comes from my own personal experience. I I I find uh, it's easier for me a lot of times to just write from what I know and from what I've experienced. I'm almost 60 years old now, um, and queer representation and queer identities have definitely changed so much since since the
Yeah.
80s when I came out. you
Yeah.
know, so that it fascinates me to have that experience through the books too. And I try to put it in there as well to reach out to other people who have queer experiences, to where possibly they can say, "Oh, I went through this." In my book before this, Pieties, was set in the 80s,
Yeah.
and definitely had a lot of my own story in involved in it. So, um, and queer identities are changing now, as we see. I mean, society, at least here in America, is trying to turn the clock back. The people who are in power are
Yeah.
trying to turn the clock back here. They're trying to change things, and I feel terrible for younger people as well.
Yeah.
I know what it was like. I grew up in the 80s. I people were trying to beat the hell out of me all the time. It was terrible. I had to hide, and
Yeah.
it was a very difficult time. And and it's gotten way better since. But if they're going to try to turn it back, it's just going to be a hard time for everybody, and everybody's going to have to learn to,
Yeah.
to be with their community and support each other. It's going to be a tough thing, and that's why I really like writing queer books too. I want it to reach out to people. I mean, straight people have their choice of, and all of literary history.
Yeah.
You know, queer
It's
books,
not it's not like they're going to have a hard time choosing a book.
right. When I started reading books when I was in the 80s and when I was a kid and when I was a teen and preteen, there were very, very few queer books.
Yeah.
And they were hard to get. There was no internet. There was no, I had to find them out. And when I found one, it was like a gem to me.
Yeah.
It was a treasure. Um, so now I just love that there's so much more, and I just want to add to that and add my experience to my queer experience to
Yeah.
what people out there can can read.
And we have just 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So I want to know, can you imagine doing a sequel to this book? Because it feels like the cultures could be potentially explored more.
Uh,
Do you
yeah.
see yourself doing that in the future, maybe?
So I wrote three novellas when I started to get serious about 5 years ago. I wanted to write and publish three novellas. Each one of those novellas, people have asked me that same question
Yeah,
because they're novellas and they're not novels. People
yeah.
are like, I want more. I want more. I'm
Give me
like, well,
more.
it's a novella. If there was more, it would have been. But yes, I can't see going on with the characters. I already have ideas. I could have gone on. Um, and yeah, someday I would like to revisit these characters. I'd like to revisit uh, Henry and um,
Yeah,
and see what else happens, and the Kolchaks as well. Although most of them died, and oh,
yeah.
spoiler.
Spoilers.
But maybe a prequel
Oh, a
might
prequel. That
might
would
be in
be
the
so
works.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not
maybe.
a sequel, but a book set like in the same world, maybe a different time or something like that.
Sure. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. It's great to like create the characters and revisit them. I find
Yeah,
revisiting stuff like that is so much fun. It's
yeah,
so
it
fun.
is.
It's like old friends.
Yeah. I think we have like 3 minutes left. I'm going to take
Okay.
the opportunity to say that I really, really love the book and that people who love cosmic horror and really cool characters and fast-paced books that are brilliantly written are going to love it too, and they should definitely get it.
Thanks so much, Jules. I appreciate your reading.
So, I've really enjoyed listening to that conversation. I think there are a lot of important things about the book, and one of them is the queer representation and what you were saying, Mark, about really reaching people. And I know we grew up in different like times. I hate saying that, but
Eras.
yeah, but it was the same for me with not being able to find any queer books when I was young. And when I did, it was just like you hold it to your heart because you're like, oh my
Mm,
God. And it's just some
right.
kind of validation and it's so affirming. And now with we've got a lot more queer identities, we need to also work to expand the genre, right? And that's what we're doing here. So Waste Ground. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so
It
much,
is.
Jules, for your conversation and for your generosity, for coming along tonight. I know it's super late over there now, so
Yeah.
so we'll keep you for another minute and a half. And
Yeah.
so Wasteland is available worldwide, paperback, digital. You can also get it straight from the Slasher Horror website in as an ebook. Sorry, as a paperback with the ebook coming in a couple of months when the KDP 60-day or whatever thing runs out. Then I can put it on our website. Um, we've already had a lot of reviews coming in, and it's just been a real treat to read those and engage with people about the book. So hopefully we can continue to do that. I want to thank you, Mark, for bringing this book to Slashik, and giving me a chance to publish it. and
Thank you.
potentially something in the future. So thanks for
Did we
trusting.
want to have Jules mention her book as well, her
Yes,
upcoming book,
mention
real quick?
mention Unholy in the last 30 seconds.
It's an apocalyptic horror novella, but it's also kind of smutty, and there's a nun,
Hmm.
a sex shop owner, and the apocalypse.
It's brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll put something in the post about the launch about Unholy as well for you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Well,
guys.
thanks, guys. I really appreciate this so much.
And congratulations again, Mark.
Yeah, happy release
Thank
Happy
day.
you.
release day.
Thank you.
Bye,
See you later.
guys.